because we strongly believe that empowered women empower other women. Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to episode 9 of the movement called #WeToo, a platform created to stand up, speak up, inspire, and uplift other working professionals around the world. Well, I'm your host, Poonam Vijay, the founder of the movement. Today, our topic of discussion is a very interesting and equally sensitive one. That's how we handcraft our topics. Whistleblower, a friend or a foe to the organization. Isn't that interesting? Yes. If knowledge is power, just hear me out. If knowledge is power, whistleblowing is potentially a shot in the arm for any corporate body. See, in our heart, we all know when we see and look around in our surroundings, in the organizations, what is right, what is not right, what could be unethical, what could cause a potential harm to the organization culture or even to any of your colleague if you see. We all have that whistleblower instinct somewhere in the corner of our heart. But the question is, we need to ask ourselves how many whistleblowers in the organizations are welcome? What kind of policies are there in the organization to safeguard such whistleblowers? Reason being, anyone who stands up and honestly, being caring and being loyal to the organization has taken a very big step of standing up, speaking up against an existing current, against a set of people who are okay with that wrongdoing. So it is very, very difficult call. Well, everybody who's going to be watching this, who's watching this right now, or who will be listening this episode, uh, you have to keep in your mind that what kind of key takeaways or call to action that you will have after watching this, the kind of panelists we have. I'm very excited to introduce you all to them. Your call to action or key takeaway will be nothing but you experiencing from their experiences about your life, and possibly it will have the power of opening up some blocked door for you. So hang in there, watch the whole show. It is going to be a very, very interesting one. Without much ado, let me just introduce our panelists to you. I am joined by, in this episode, Ms. Yanake Parrish. You all know her. She made headlines. A former program manager at Apple. She is a whistleblower on work conditions and pay equity at Apple. She lives in the Round Rock, TX, United States. Then we have, welcome, Janake. Then we have Miss Siji Varghese, founder, Leaders in Lipstick. Very interesting. Siji is an award-winning TEDx speaker with 23 years of corporate leadership, a coach and a passionpreneur. I really love this, Siji. She has conducted more than 800 corporate workshops, impacting 45,000 lives globally. Now that's massive. She was awarded the Karamveer Chakra United Nations and the International WEE Women Excellence Empowerment Rising Women Award for her service to the women community. Very warm welcome, Siji, to you. Ms. Wimple Randhawa, the next panelist, design and operations manager with close to 12 plus years of corporate expertise. She believes in taking risk. And we love that about you, Wimple. She's leading operations at an MSME manufacturing large organization. Then we have Ms. Bharti Sharma, an HR professional with 15 plus years of expertise, turned a transformation coach and an author of the book, Be Gratitude. She has touched and transformed more than 400 lives. And last but definitely not the least, Ms. Pallavi Vyas, 15 plus years of experience in the corporate world from media and advertising industry, currently at a leadership position at Experience Commerce Global Giant, and humanitarian and involved with NGOs that support child health and education, a proud single mother to a lovely daughter. I cannot welcome you all enough. I think this is going to be a very, very fantastic panel. Everyone, warm welcome to you. In the order of my introduction, why don't we just start with your opening notes to open up the session? Yanake, with you.
Definitely. So for my part, thank you very much for your introduction as well. It was very sweet and kind. For my part, I am a whistleblower for Apple, whistleblowing on working conditions and pay equity. I'm a co-founder of the Apple II movement, which has been formed essentially to give workers a voice within Apple. We see ourselves as part of the greater worker movement within tech, and we identify with our siblings in Netflix, Google, across the tech industry. Our interest is in making sure that workers have the best conditions they can at the world's largest tech companies.
Sure. Absolutely. And I think your experience in terms of how you went about it, what were your challenges, will really help our audience in my next question when I roll back to you, Janaki. Okay, let's hear it from you.
Definitely. So some of the major challenges, certainly for my part, you mentioned that my story has made headlines around the world. For my part, as a whistleblower, I was terminated from Apple for my work. And so one of the challenges there is obviously people don't generally want to lose their jobs, but it was something that what I was saying was it needed to be said. We needed to have this representation for the workers at Apple. Some of the challenges were, as I said, losing my job, but also making sure that we were heard. It's one thing to speak, it's another thing to be heard along the way. However, I feel that the work we have done as Apple too, as workers speaking in unison and in solidarity with each other, has had an impact. Certainly in the past few weeks, we've seen Apple taking some actions that we feel it would not have taken without us speaking out. So while the challenges and the sacrifices along the way have been many, the rewards themselves have also been fairly great, and we're very, very proud of that.
We are very proud of you. We are very proud of you. Uh, just forgetting about what will happen, but just taking that courage with you and going out and speaking. Wonderful. Let's hear from the other panelists. Their opening remarks, please. Siti?
Okay, I kind of always have felt, with the kind of experience that I had as a consultant with many organizations too, and while I worked too, whistleblowing is something which is actually a critical part of the organization. And as we all know, it has its great advantages. So while I was doing an ROI consultancy, when I was doing a lot of consultancy with the organizations, I used to find that there are multiple organizations who are not aware of lot many things what's happening within the organization, primarily because of lack of communication, primarily because many people are afraid to speak up because they don't really know if they would be considered in the right sense. They wouldn't know if it's a safe zone for them. They wouldn't know it would be a fire space for them if they sounded it off to others. And I would find there is a lot of disharmony because of that in the organization. And here is what I would love to say here is that whenever I have found that there's a culture top down of being transparent, having an open communication, having the conducive environment, they fairly do very well with their retention strategies. They have loyal and dedicated staff for a real good time. And so whatever you have invested in the employee really pays off big time. So that's what I have gathered from all my experiences. And I always feel that whistleblowing, as you are rightly asked, is it a friend or a foe? Of course, it's a double-edged sword at times. But I always would say it's like more like being a friend to the organization.
Absolutely. Very well said, Suji. Very well. This makes me think about a concept that just, for example, if let's just visualize it's a fair world and all the consequences of whistleblowing could be positive, then just imagine how it will impact the organization's productivity as well as profitability, because you will be able to bring losses down, you will be able to cut down on everything that is going not in the right direction. And also, very rightly said, Sajid, building that conducive environment for all the genders, I think in today's time and today's day and age is very important. Well said. Thank you. Moving on to Wimple.
Hi, Poonam. Poonam, first of all, thank you for pronouncing my name absolutely correctly.
Oh.
You're probably one of the rare people who've taken my name in the first go correct. So moving on from there, when we're talking about whistleblowing, whether it's a whistleblower is a friend or a foe, I think you can't really put it in black and white because whistleblowing has its own, I would say, the flip side of some disadvantages for the organization, but in the longer run, if you look at it, it definitely, it paves way for, better working of the organization. So it cuts down on the unethical, unfair practices which are happening. So I'll just put down something, I was reading about it, and there was a survey which was done in US between 2004 to 16. On with the whistleblowing within the organization, efficacy of that. So according to that, the organizations which have internal whistleblowing, they pay lesser amount in terms of lawsuit settlements and everything. So there are a lot of advantages for the organization. Of course, if you look at it, everything has its plus and minuses. here I see the inclination is more towards being a friend than a foe. But yes, I would, in my opening line, I would say you can't really say it in black and white whether it's a friend or a foe. So that's how I would like to put it.
Oh, sure. Point taken. Lovely. I think the research numbers are talking about, see, ultimately, any organization is wanting to do what? It's not a charity organization. They want their profitability and credibility to be equally up. What is an organization that has less credibility, less affinity, but great profitability? You can't be running businesses on dead people, is what I personally feel. So, from ethics point of view, we have police in the world, we have courts in the world, we also have the supernatural power that we call God in the world, right? A lot of people believe, right? Minus the cult that doesn't. But ultimately, it is about knowing that what is right, what is not right. So, very well put. Let's move on to Pallavi.
Very, very nice pointers, actually. And if I have to say it very frankly, I think I completely believe that having somebody to tell you the truth and somebody to point out any malpractices or anything which is happening within the organization is definitely a positive aspect, because you have, first of all, created that sort of environment in the company that people can come up to you and tell the truth. Number two, there's a short-term profitability that you get in the business. You earn few crores and you get out of it, and then there is a longevity to your business. And I think most of us and most of the organizations would rather want to invest in the longevity of profitability. If that is actually the objective, then there has to be an employee first approach that we have to follow. And if we do not really follow it, I think sooner or later we are kind of upping ourselves for disaster. We are upping ourselves for failure. And according to me, having a whistleblower or having a team, a group of people or an individual to come up to me and tell me that, this is what is happening in the organization, I think it becomes utmost responsibility of leadership and utmost responsibility of management and responsible parties to take that as priority. That is the only way to kind of run an organization, run a business, not only from a profitability perspective, but also to give back to the community, also to give back to your employees who are working for you. They are spending day and night for you. So I think, according to me, it is definitely a friend for any organization to have a whistleblower or a ring bearer or whatever we want to call it.
Very well said. Very well. I love the concept of employee first approach, because you don't need to be talking about these things when robots will take up a lot of work, right? So there won't be anything till such time humans are there. Humans have to be treated like humans. Humans cannot be treated like robots, right? Great, Bharti, over to you.
So, friend or a foe, in my view, continuing to what Pallavi said, because I've worked in HR for a very, very long time, all my tenure, most of it I worked in HR. So in my view, in my experience in all these years, I think, like Pallavi said, it's responsibility of respective stakeholders. I'd say HR is one of the main stakeholders here, right? Because it's HR's responsibility to kind of build employees' trust in management, right? So that they don't go out, they don't go external, and everything that has to be addressed should be raised internally.
Correct.
Right? And in my view, I would say it is definitely a friend. It just depends how effectively we use it.
Absolutely. Very well said. Very well said. I think that is what organizations should be striving for, that there should be some very solid mechanism to be looking at problems and dealing and resolving those problems, keeping the organization's benefit first and in priority in mind. So great. That was very well, I would say, start of the entire discussion. Now let's go a little deeper into the next is the problems and the solutions, so that everybody who's watching will understand in depth what we are trying to deliver. So, Yanake, let me just come back to you in the same sequence with a follow-up question on what you said. Whilst the perception of whistleblowers in the corporate world is often negative, such views are usually based on the actions of what sometimes, what just Bharti said, called external whistleblowers, those disclosing information to prosecutors, regulators, or to the media. By contrast, internal whistleblowers, individual employees who report wrongdoing, unethical practices to the employer, are very less talked about, but maybe far more valuable. How would you put this point across to everyone?
Definitely. So I do agree with some of the points here that having a robust internal reporting system is ultimately beneficial for companies, because when you have that robust internal reporting system, it discourages that sort of external reporting, and it also creates a dialogue internally such that a company can improve before something becomes more of a more public knowledge. However, the issue comes when that internal reporting system isn't robust and tries to manifest itself as robust without actually being such. That's when you end up with these workers who are unhappy with what's available to them and feel they have no other option than to go externally. If you invest in that internal system, it must be an honest, good faith investment. It must be an honest, good faith investment in the workers who will be using it. If it's not, if it exists solely as a way to discourage reporting, then that's a system that is bound to eventually lead to these external whistleblowers.
So, Janaki, let me just ask you something, just a crux of what your experience was.
Definitely.
We've read news reportings. I'm sorry, we've read news reporting, but you're sitting with us. Why don't you just give a little bit to us about what has been your experience?
Definitely, and certainly my experience. Once again, I come from Apple, one of the world's largest companies, and my experience there was that I did approach the problem internally. I worked internally first with our internal HR, trying to set up meetings, trying to address the inequities that I saw within the company around worker treatment and around pay and around remote work as well. However, what we found was that when we went through these internal avenues, we were routinely either ignored or brushed off. And so when I talk about having these robust internal reporting avenues, I mean that employees must know that their voices will be heard. They must know that they'll be listened to. Even if management can't actually take the actions that the employees are asking them to take, knowing that it's a dialogue and knowing that what they're saying is not going into some vast black hole is incredibly important. For us with Apple II, when we found that we had no pathway to actually take our issues to management, to actually tell management what it was like to be a worker on the ground, when we realized we had no such pathway, that's when we went external. That's something that I believe Apple could have avoided with a more robust internal system in the first place.
I'm sure. And I'm sure that 2021, this decade is not about just, sitting quiet. The world is very big. And if it is for the larger good, then of course, it makes all the sense to be talking about it. Thank you, Janaki, for sharing with us. Siti, let me just put it in a different way for you. Most important step according to you could be, and what it could be for organizations to be empowering whistleblowers? And do you think that this will create a more fair environment and happiness? I think what I'm trying to drive from here is that when you see things are wrong, but there is no way, there is no mechanism. What Janaki is trying to say is the robust system is all about a very solid mechanism. With confidence, you can go without any bias. So what organizations with your plethora of experience you think in today's day and world can do?
That's a very interesting question. In fact, there was an organization that I was dealing with, and they would do a very beautiful thing. And right from the day when the induction happens of an employee, they would actually give them a red envelope. Okay. And they would say anything that you would notice in your period, go ahead, write into it, and we ensure that the chairman reads that.
Oh, wow.
If you are, and you don't need to sign up, it could be anonymous too, but you can just definitely have the red flag on. And that's the kind of thing that you're given at the orientation itself. And imagine the kind of loyalty people would have, because today we are looking at great places to work in. Sometimes more than the salary, it's more important is how connected, how belonged, how supportive the entire space is for you to be productive, to do your best. Because today we are looking at being aligned with the organizational goals, wanting to be a part of the bigger good. And so we feel so aligned and connected if we get that space to speak up, the safe space to speak up. So when I saw this organization going ahead and handing over the red envelope and saying that anything that you notice, go ahead, sign it up, write it up, and we ensure that the chairman looks into it, reads through it. And I think that's something that you really connect at that point in time with the employee, that this is the best thing that I could do, this is the best place I can be safe. That's one thing. And I've always noticed that whistleblowers are, they're the early warning signs. They're the
Right.
ones who will actually warn you before there's a disaster that's there in the making. It could be a disaster with a leader. It could be harassments of different types.
Yeah.
Somebody who blows the whistle, many a time because of a lot of fear or because of being judged in the wrong way, you don't really speak up. But when you know there's a space which lets you be there, even if when the HR is putting everything in place, if the HR is aligning that, then they really have that feel, okay, I can go ahead and open up, I can stand up, speak up. And that's when I know I am heard in the right space without being judged. So even the fear of being judged is there. Okay.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that fear is very, very big fear, because you are now trying to say that I'm coming out. And you will not be talking about a machine not doing fine in your organization. Let's be honest about it. You will not be talking about a software not working fine in your organization. You will be talking about human beings creating some issues, right? So this is evident that you're going kind of against the people or the teams who are apparently not doing fine. So it is a very, very big call, and that's why, Yaniki, I'm. Let me say I'm proud of you. I don't care about the world, because the young generation needs to give that signals out. That organization don't need to put those even red envelopes. That signal out has to go that this generation is not going to take things that are wrong. So, Saji, just picking up from what you said very interestingly, when we talk about the culture, right? When we talk about there are organizations, unfortunately, because of the best places to work tag, they have to do certain things, and then there is law also in certain very, very important cases. Uh, what about when you see that you go very, very exactly what Jenica said, right? She went out. She went out to talk internally. It was an internal whistle blown before it went out, but the answers were not given. What kind of recourse employees have? Because ultimately, it is the loss of your career, or it's a very difficult situation. Any kind of experience that you have, Sajay, that you want to share with us?
So this is an example, a classic example of a sexual harassment. So there was this leader who had this, a typical habit. I mean, he wasn't aware that this would come into feeling abused by the women colleagues, but he would go ahead, pass some kinds of statements, to say something which is like inappropriate. And there would be a lot of women colleagues attrition, or a lot of women wanting to leave the organization. And that was like a huge cost to the organization, because each attrition comes with a huge cost. And they suddenly set up the whole thing to understand why are so many women just leaving, right? What is that we are not doing right, that these women have to leave? And that's when they had to put up an entire investigation to know in their exit interviews too, the women don't really speak up because they're too scared as to what will happen if they are leaving the organization and some other organization gets a ref check, and the whole thing is maligned against them. Instead of in favor, it could be maligned against them. So let me not talk about here. Even the exit interviews would be smooth, and then they would keep thinking, what is it happening? And loss of productivity, big time productivity loss. And this gentleman doesn't know at all what is the reason why all the people around him are leaving. It was very late, towards after having a lot of loss happening, that they got into the consultant and checking on what is actually happening, that someone just opened up. And then we had to go back and check with the rest of the women and the ones who already left. And we understood that this was a pattern going on for literally 6.5 years.
Oh.
And by that time, it was quite a disaster and a mess. Instead of fixing the problem, we kind of blew it up beyond the proportions, not knowing what the root cause was. So everybody wants to fix the problem, but they weren't sure if I go there, could I get fixed? Can I fix the problem? Would there be a help for me to fix the problem? And everybody out of scared just said, forget it. Either I leave the job and find something better for me, or stay back and talk, and I don't know what could be the consequences of that. So this was a perfect example, and we actually landed up saying that there was a huge loss for these attritions that were creating productivity loss, and it's a disaster in the making. All that we had.
Believe when the loss, sorry, and I also believe when the loss happens, there is a word going out in the market that this is what is happening. People leave and then they talk about it. So it is about the credibility of the organization that is at stake.
Absolutely. And there's a brand that is at stake,
Yeah.
right? So people don't feel safe to work in that organization. They don't even, you can't attract the right talent because there's already a rumor in the market that there's some problem in this organization.
Correct. Okay. Wonderful. Wimple, I want to come to you, and I'm aware that you also had some experiences, right?
Yeah.
Why speaking up is so difficult? Shouldn't there be, on the contrary, a strategy for whistleblowers to be actually given some brownie points for having the courage to speak up? And why speaking up you think is so difficult?
Poonam, I think what organizations, the management, they feel that, because they are sitting at the top, so they know what is right for the organization, what is not right. So they're not open to the idea of taking the feedback from the employees. Though these employees are the one who are going to be, who are going to be your, they're going to be talking about you. How CGO has already said that, if they leave the organization, they're going to go and talk about it. So this is exactly what happened, with me also. There was a practice in the organization that I worked with in the past, and it's a very big name in the industry. And, when I joined them, they gave me a package that this is what the package is. I said, okay, it works for me. I joined, I asked them for an appointment letter. The appointment letter came with a different package. I asked the HR, why is there a discrepancy? They said, we deduct a part of your salary as a bonus. So every month we deduct 10 to 15, depending upon, your seniority in the organization, we deduct some amount. I said, okay, fine. How does that come back to us? So they told me that by the end of the year, when we give you the bonus, that comes back to you in the form of the bonus. And if you've outperformed, we'll add, top it up with our own bonus. So I could not really understand that idea, because this is not really bonus. You're cutting it from my salary. But then, when you're working in the organization, you're still fine. By the end of the year, you're getting your bonus, you're getting some top up on that. And then when one of my colleagues who used to sit with me, when she left, she was paid just 50% of the bonus, which was deducted from her salary throughout the year. I spoke to my senior. I asked her, I said, what is this whole issue? Why has she got only 50%? She said, I don't know what the whole thing is. It's the management's decision. And within a few months, I was also about to leave the organization. I had already put in my papers. So either, and their, the appraisal and bonus and everything happens in October, does not happen in March. So by the time you get your bonus, you've already worked for 6 months with them. So either you leave your 1 year bonus and leave in March, or if you're waiting for your bonus, you work till October, November, and then you get your 1 year bonus. But you've already worked for 6 months, you're going to lose on that 6 months bonus. So, when I left, I worked for a complete financial year.
Was this not made clear to you before you joined? Because companies may have this policy, but what is important is transparency before somebody takes up the role.
So that's what I'm coming to. So, it was never in black and white. So when I left the organization in April, they told me that, the bonus and everything is going to happen in a few months. Then October, I spoke to my senior. She said, I don't know when is it going to happen. Then I wrote a letter to the team leader, email. She responded in a different way that, it all depends on the business. And there was a series of emails between me and my team leader. And she never denied that, I was supposed to get a bonus, but she was neither in denial, she was not in acceptance.
Right.
That was the time that I decided that I need to bring it up to the management, the owners of the organization. I sent an email to them. They sent back the email to the team leader saying that she's going to respond to it. And that's, that was the point that I realized they're not going to pay to me. They were not going to pay me. And that's when I spoke to an advocate, and she told me that, you have a strong case, because I showed her all the emails, all my SWOT analysis, my performance bonuses every year. So she said, you have a very strong case. I can get you a deal. Either it's most probably it's going to be out of court settlement, but are you okay to fight it out? Because it's going to be a long battle. I said, whether I fight it out till the end or not, for me, it's important that they realize that everybody is not, they can't put everybody in the same, platter that, okay, we've been doing this since years.
Nobody will speak.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I sent them a notice. So there was a series of notices happening. Legal action was taken. And then at one point, my lawyer, she said that, you want to take it forward. I am there with you. But you have to keep it in mind that it may take years. For this amount, it may take years for you to get it. And then, you might be compromising on your professional life, because you will need to go to the court also for that. Right. I said, fine, I'll end it here. But they at least have got the message from me. And after a few days, I met an ex-colleague of mine, and she told me, Pimple, everybody in the organization now knows your name. I said, why? What is the whole thing? She said, now everything about the bonus is in black and white. So the appointment letters and everything, they have very clearly stated that this percentage of your salary is going to be deducted as your bonus, which you would get by the end of the year.
Wonderful.
So she told me that, you made a difference. So the whole idea, when she told me that you made a difference, was enough for me. I didn't want the money, though it was a big amount for me. But then I was like, fine, even if I haven't got the money back, but I have made a difference for the people who are going to be joining that organization after me.
Wimple, you actually went ahead and saved a lot of people going through the same thing. So I must appreciate you, and congratulations. This is the real service, because you have kept yourself on one side and you said that, hey, I'm going to be doing something wonderful.
And the thing is that when you become the whistleblower, you are judged in the organization. If you're continuing your job over there, you're judged, you're looked, everybody looks at you that, oh, she's the one or he's the one who's brought up the issues in the organization. Your managers don't really support you in issues. This is what I had faced within the organization throughout those 3-4 years that I worked with them. Right. And I'm still facing the consequences, because I know it's a big organization. And, whenever I give an interview, the call goes back to them for a reference check or for the feedback. And I know they've recently given a negative feedback for me, but that's absolutely fine. As you said, there's Almighty. So karma brings everything back to everybody.
Wonderful. Bharti, I want to now quickly come to you. Yeah. And Wimple, thank you for sharing, first of all. And Bharti, internal whistleblowing can have great benefits for corporate bodies. Exactly what she's saying. It could be beneficial. It can increase the longevity of employees. It can remove attrition or lower or whatever. But, what is the role of HR here to influence the management or policies? Because what I personally feel is that the managers or HRs are guided by the management. So as an HR person, what would be your thought process here?
I would say role of HR is huge. Right? It's huge. I'd say it's most important than anybody else, right? People have managers, employees have managers, they have leaders, right? But HR is somebody who actually connects everybody. Correct. Right? HR is somebody who will help build trust of the employees, giving them a space, because all the employees look up to HR as a fair person, right? That they'll be non-judgmental, they're going to be fair people, right? So that is why the role is so important. Role of HR, I'd say, would be to give clarity, what can be called out as an issue, and what qualifies and what should not be qualified, right? So it shouldn't be confused with flying monkeys, right? Narcissists have flying monkeys, right? So it shouldn't be confused there. People should be clear. Of course, I'll not say encourage them, but empower employees that they have this place. They can connect with HR anytime if they feel, right? Rather than going externally, if they'll see that conducive environment with HR, if they have that trust in HR, they will definitely come to the HR. Another responsibility would be addressing it. Right? Addressing whatever the issue employee is raising, maybe not at their level, but yeah, reaching out to leadership or whosoever the respective stakeholders are. HR has all the tools, competencies, capabilities to support these kind of issues.
Right.
They are. I mean, that's why they are human resources.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said.
They should act as role models. HRs can also help leadership understand the people component if any such issue arises, right? Acting as a bridge.
Wonderful. Pallavi, let's quickly move to you. As they say, the best way to make your business better is to listen to feedback of your customers. I come from the marketing background, and my whole 21 years have gone in just listening to customers and then, going back and making the changes in the product, in the ad films or whatever, in the campaigns. So why is this not much appreciated when it comes to the internal customers of the organization? Is it something to do with, we don't like people taking challenges up, going head on? And why is it that employees' feedback is not as much as respected as in today's time the feedback of customers is?
I'll give you a very short and sweet answer for this one. We kind of live in a world which is a world full of people pleasers. So either we are people pleasers or we expect people to please us.
Correct.
And that is the biggest problem of it all. Why we do not appreciate people coming and telling us the truth or being honest with us is the biggest question right now. Every problem that I was listening to, and everybody, and hats off to everybody for being so courageous in their life. I think being honest, while it requires a lot of courage, listening to somebody being honest with you also requires a lot of courage.
Well said.
It is not what most of us are ready to. If today I come and tell you that this is what is wrong in your organization, or this person who is supposedly your favorite, or is a performer, or is a star performer, is doing this exceptional work, or bringing a lot of business, doing excellent campaigns for you, but at the same moment is a sexist, for example, or is somebody who's passing very sly comments on other employees, or is somebody who is doing, any other malpractices within the organization, we often tend to have a deaf ear towards it. Because we are kind of looking at a benefit which is going on for us, I mean, if the numbers look good, and being a marketer, you would understand, if the numbers look good and if we are getting those persistent views, I think we are pretty happy with it. But what we are not understanding is that we are actually losing out eventually.
Yeah.
And this is going to happen. The world will crumble right under our noses if we do not appreciate it.
Very well said, Pallavi.
So it is very important while I agree, HR is the core of everything that happens within the organization. But it is also very important to have a third-party invasion or a third-party sort of a policy involved in an organization. Why is it important is that a lot of times, and this I'm speaking from my own experience in my past as well, I was in a mid-level position in one of the organization wherein I was going through something very personal and very, very how should I put it, threatening to my life. But when I reached out to the HR or to supposedly a team or my management, I was not being helped in the way I should have been helped. What it led to was a series of after effects. I was not very courageous like you all are. I was in a situation where I was not really thinking straight, and I had to step back. And when I took a step back, I kind of in those years or months actually understood that nobody was losing on it. I was the one who was losing on it because my challenge was not addressed. I cannot comment on why it was not addressed. But at the same moment, I understood that within an organization, there is a group of people who are like this type, So obviously there has to be a third party involvement. There has to be anonymity that needs to be maintained.
Right.
A whistleblower most often, whether it is for a personal cause or a public cause, is afraid for their career. They are afraid to lose their job and eventually keep on paying for, raising a challenge or an issue or being honest. I mean, being honest is the simplest thing we expect everybody to do.
Right.
And if you are being punished for it, then it is the worst thing that could happen to you. And that is why it is very important to have that structure within an organization. I think HR's role becomes very imperative because they
Very
are
pivotal.
supposed to bring that structure together along with the management. I mean, that is what I want to say over here.
Well said. Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
Great. I think this was a very, very hearty discussion. Everybody just spoke their heart out, which is very, very important for hashtag WeToo community and the panels. So let's just quickly go around, starting in the same order. You all can take the lead. Janaki, we'll start with you. One line, one empowering line you want to tell the world through this panel today.
Definitely. And I think the main thing I would really take as a takeaway is, first, I greatly applaud everybody here. You are amazing women and amazing human beings. And I would reiterate that our voices have power. And when we put our voices out there, when we speak our truths, when we speak honestly, it's scary, but our voices have so much power, and we should not let that power be taken away. We have the power to change where we are for the better. Let's use that power.
Well said, Janaki. Thank you. Please, Siji.
Taking on it from her, it's like the voice has power. It's like aspire to inspire before you expire.
Oh, wow. Well said. Moving on.
I feel trust is very important, be it a personal relationship or professional relationship. So till the time you do not have trust, you cannot take it forward. So how do you build trust? You build it through communication. So how do you build communication? You build systems in the organization, or generally, when you want to have a good relationship, you communicate with each other. This is how it should be within an organization. There should be a 360 feedback where, everybody has the right, be the subordinate or the superior. Everybody should have a right to talk about the issues that they are seeing. So that's what I feel. Trust, communication, and 360 feedback. That's what
Wonderful.
I feel is important.
Wonderful. Let's move on. I think it's Bharti. Yeah.
So I'd say congruence between your words and action is
Oh.
something very, very important, be it for leadership, be it for HR, be it for employees. I think that's at most important, what you're
Very
saying and what
powerful.
you're doing.
Very powerful line. Very powerful line. Over to you, Pallavi.
Yeah. The line that I really relate to is that there's no linear line to success. And by listening and by being honest and listening to people who are honest with you, we kind of avoid mistakes from turning into failures. And that is what we want to focus to. And that is how
Wonderful.
we should kind of focus, to empower ourselves and to empower everyone around us.
Very well said. Very well said. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I for sure know one thing, that there is nobody who does not know about what whistleblower policy or whistleblowing is. But this very unique panel discussion is going to go out, and everybody who's watching is going to understand that, ultimately we are human beings working in the organization. Somebody I was just recently speaking with somebody, and somebody, actually a very senior person from the industry, said that, hey, Poonam, we are not human capital. There is no human capital. We are humans. We are no capital. The moment you put capital to humans, and it was so empowering. I never thought like that. In fact, I thought I am a human capital. I always thought that it is human, but the sense was put, and this is the entire philosophy of WeToo, to put back the sense in the world and with the thoughts in the. So thank you so much, Janaki, Bharati, Wimple, Siji, and Pallavi, for taking part and becoming a part of this community. I can't thank you enough, and for sharing your views. Thank you so much.